Hello. Now some of you may know I am a huge fan of horror, and some of my favourite horror movies are the It horror movies. So I thought today, why not go through, for example, the appearance and the acting and the overall feel of the It 1990 miniseries Pennywise, and the It 2017 and It Chapter 2 2019 Bill Skarsgård Pennywise. We'll see by the end of it who I prefer, essentially. So let's get right into it, starting with the appearance. We're going to start with Tim Curry. There's not a whole lot to say about Tim Curry's Pennywise appearance. He kind of just looks like any ordinary clown that you would invite to your kid's birthday party. He's got the puffy red hair, he's got the round red nose, he's got the colourful outfit. Not really scary in any sort of way. It's not really a dirty outfit. It looks very clean, very fresh. And just a plain white face with some ordinary black drawn on makeup. Not a whole lot to say. But then if you move on to Bill Skarsgård's Pennywise, it is much more of a horror-looking clown. This is a clown you would hope not to see at your kid's birthday party. He's got the kind of worn-out, dirty, old-looking clown outfit. He's got more interesting makeup. They've painted his nose rather than giving him a prosthetic nose. And the red lines that they've drawn from his lips going up through his eyes, up to his eyebrows. Very nice touch. And if you can make it past the humongous forehead, they've gave him some pretty fiery, old, wispy looking ginger hair. So I think for sure the point on the appearance has to go to Bill Skarsgård's Pennywise, in my opinion. I just prefer it. It gives off more of a creepy horror vibe, and it's not as cartoony or animated as Tim Curry's. Another topic I want to touch on is how the characters sound, their voices. So I'm just going to show you a couple of clips here, one of Tim Curry's voice and then one of Bill Skarsgård's voice. And then I'll kind of explain who I prefer or who I would rather hear in a tunnel we'll use.
Won't do any good to run, girly boy. See you in your dreams. Oh, come back anytime. Bring your friends.
This isn't real enough for you, Billy. I'm not real enough for you.
Holy shit.
It wasn't real enough for Georgie.
Now, although Tim Curry's Pennywise has much more of a kind of deep, raspy, creepy-ish voice, I would much rather hear that than Bill Skarsgård's high-pitched, giggly... That was the weirdest stutter I've ever done. I would much rather hear Tim Curry's voice than Bill Skarsgård's if I'm sitting in a dark tunnel. However, I do want to point out, Tim Curry's Pennywise was back in the 1990s, whereas Bill Skarsgård's was much more modern in the 2017-2019. So obviously, 2017 they had much more CGI and much more, things they could do with the character, rather than 1990, it was a whole lot of prosthetics. And I've heard that Tim Curry didn't really want to use a whole lot of prosthetics, so for not using a lot of prosthetics and not having the technology and CGI they had in 2017, I think Tim Curry done a really good job kind of bringing the character to life, even though it was just some makeup and a costume he had on. However, talking about CGI, we have to touch on some of these shapeshifts that these two characters morph into. For example, if you take a look at some of these pictures here, this is some of the Tim Curry shapeshifts that he went into. You see he's got the werewolf and he's got the old lady. They're pretty basic. He also had the mummy in there too. And there was even a part that he had, he turned his head into a pit bull. Yeah. But then if you look at these pictures of Bill Skarsgård's shapeshifts, you can tell they are much more modern, way better looking, way creepier, way scarier, and I mean, yeah, just by far better than the older version, as they should be, like I said, because of the kind of CGI in that we have nowadays. However, that's not saying that Tim Curry's shapeshifts are bad looking, because they're not. They are still freaky looking, and they actually look pretty good, seeing how they were almost 30 years ago now. Now, I want to drift away from Pennywise necessarily for a minute and go to the Losers Club. Obviously, it's the same characters, so both are pretty similar. You've got Eddie, for example, who's kind of smaller than everyone else. Then you've got Richie, who's always making jokes and kind of being a bit of a prick. And then you've got Bill, who has the stutter, Mike. You've got Beverly, who's the only girl. You've got fucking Ben, who's fat. And I forgot to say Stanley. You fucking imbecile. But rather than focusing on the younger side of the Losers Club, I want to focus on how they look when they're older. So you can obviously tell by this picture here, they did try and kind of make the characters look similar to each other back in the 1990s, which they didn't do a horrible job with, other than few, like Stanley. His actor looks absolutely nothing like him. But then if you look at the 2019 version, Ben's character looks nothing like him either. They could have kept him a bit bigger than everyone else, but they didn't. They decided to, I don't know the actor's name, but it's like the guy was ripped when he was playing Ben. But if you look at these pictures here, the resemblance to the younger version in 2017 to the older version in 2019, it's almost uncanny. It's actually freaky how close they've made some of these characters look. One in particular is Eddie. The younger actor of Eddie kind of looks, if I imagined him when he was like 30 years old, I feel like the older version of Eddie is exactly what he'd look like, more or less. And one of my favourite actors slash comedians are also in this movie, Bill Hader. I just think he's a very funny guy, and I think he actually did well being in a horror movie. Last but not least, I want to talk about what I thought of the 1990 versus the 2017 and 2019 movies as a whole. I'm going to be honest, I'm just going to hit you with it straight. I much preferred watching the 2017 movie and the 2019 movie more than Tim Curry's 1990 miniseries. But yeah, I just thought Pennywise was scarier in 2017 and 2019. I thought the acting was better. I'm just going to tell you straight. I did, especially from the child actors in the 1990 miniseries, they weren't great, I'm not going to lie. However, Seth Green was in there, which most of you might not know him from this picture. You may know him from Scooby-Doo. He was in one of those movies. And he also voices Chris Griffin on Family Guy. I only found out recently that that was him in the 1980 miniseries, so I thought that was pretty cool as well. And obviously, like I was saying earlier, the CGI in the more recent It movies is obviously a million times better than it was back then. The shapeshifts Pennywise does nowadays is obviously pretty much all CGI, and back then it was all kind of props and makeup and that sort of thing. So what It movies or Pennywise or whatever you want to judge this off of do I prefer? Bill Skarsgård's Pennywise, 2017. I prefer the 2017 movie over the 2019 movie. I just think there was more of a horror factor to it. 2019 was definitely scary. I don't think it was as scary or nearly even as creepy or uncomfortable it made me as 2017. But that's not knocking the fact that the 1990s miniseries is still a masterpiece. You know, we wouldn't have the 2017 and 2019 remakes if it wasn't for Tim Curry. So, yeah, I think Tim Curry did an incredible job kind of building the structure of the character so that Bill Skarsgård could kind of play off of it. So, yeah, even though I prefer the most modern ones with Bill Skarsgård, I would still recommend going and checking out Tim Curry's 1990s miniseries. And yeah, that's it from me. Bye-bye.